Good morning, Geshe-la, Tashidile. I'm so sorry it took us a few moments to get everything sorted.
Yeah.
And we are facing a lot of technical difficulties, and this is the first time that we are doing so. So sorry for all the delay.
No, it's
And
okay.
I see that we have around 53 attendees here, and more will be joining us.
Yeah.
And we are also live on Facebook right now. So many people are also reaching us through their Facebook. And before I start, I would like to, because there are many participants for this webinar who are new to our organization and who have only recently connected with us. So I would like to briefly tell them about Flowering Dharma and what our organization is about. So once again, Tashidile, Jule, and welcome to everyone. I'm Lobsang Wangmu, and I, on behalf of Flowering Dharma, would like to welcome you all to this one-day webinar on Athesha's role on bridging the Himalayan tradition, Tibetan tradition, and the Indian wisdom tradition. And this is also a closing ceremony of the certificate course that we did with in which more than 5 students participated, and we have around 100 something students who have passed this course, and they will also be getting a certificate signed by Geshe-la himself. And first of all, I would like to, because there are many new participants here, I would like to introduce what Flowering Dharma is all about. So Flowering Dharma is a youth initiative that was started in the year 2009 by some Ladakhi students who were residing in Delhi, and they were students in Delhi University. And there they realized that they're losing touch with their culture. And with that aim in mind, they formed Flowering Dharma to keep the self-community alive. And then slowly it grew, and people and students from different regions joined Flowering Dharma. And now we are proud to say that we are actively working in 6 different places across India, across the Himalayan region, including Delhi, Jammu, Chandigarh, and Arunachal Pradesh. I'm a native of Arunachal Pradesh, so we have been able to connect the extreme ends of Indian Himalaya from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. And Flowering Dharma, basically, we work towards fulfilling the four aims and objectives. First being promotion and preserving Indian wisdom tradition, and the second being keeping the sense of universal ethics alive, giving a platform to different communities and students from different, to come together and for universal brotherhood.
Hello.
Hi, Thapa. I see you have joined us.
एक मिनट मैं देख रहा हूँ.
Okay, and the third aims of Flowering Dharma is to preserve and promote the local economy.
हाँ, जब आचे वालों बात करते तो उनका आता है ना वीडियो.
Okay, hi Thapa.
Papa, mute please.
Okay, we are so sorry. It's okay, it's fine. That was Thapa, one of our members from Assam. You can't see him right now on screen, but I think he will switch on his camera in a while. And then, I was talking about the goals of Flowering Dharma. So I would request Ghansham Thapa to play a small video that would give a gist of what our organization is. Thapa, if you can hear me. I hope you can hear. I don't think he's online right now. So I think it will take some time for us to connect with Thapa. But in the meanwhile, I would like to introduce also our esteemed speaker for today, Geshe Lhakdor. I know every one of you already know who Geshe Lhakdor is, and a person of his caliber doesn't need any introduction. But I will just try to introduce him. And for our participants who may not know who he is, so Geshe Lhakdor, he's the director of Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Tanjore. He's a distinguished Buddhist scholar, and Geshe-la has also served as the English translator for His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama from 1989 to 2005. And he has also translated many books by His Holiness. And Geshe-la is also heading the Science for Monks program, and he also shares his expertise as a scholar of science and philosophy. And Keshila has been a supporter of our organization for a very long time. So thank you so much, Keshila, for once again accepting our request and leading this webinar. I would give the stage to you now, the virtual stage, and would request Keshila to kindly start with our program today. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Flowering Dharma, for organizing this. And not only organizing this talk, but for being very active in really making the Dharma flourish, which suits the name Flowering Dharma. I was very impressed with the members of the Flourishing Dharma right from day one when I met them, and then since then we were in touch for a number of years. Activities of this kind, initiated and participated especially by young people, is going to make a long impact for the health of the body and mind of everybody, irrespective of whether you are Buddhist or not. And that actually will also become the real source of proper education. Many a times I've been saying today, unfortunately, the very notion of education is distorted. People think that education means reading, writing, and mathematics, and then getting a job and certain amount of salary. So the aim of education itself is really very much misconstrued and distorted. It is becoming more and more evident and clear that unless we have a proper way of education and proper way of life, we will not be able to solve personal problems or problems of the family and thereby the problems of the whole world. Doesn't matter however much you try to do some patchwork with certain material accumulations, but at the end of the day, when you are empty inside and have no resources to pull out from within yourself, none of these external patchwork solutions is going to help. And this has become very clear during this pandemic. So that's why sometimes it is good to have such problems. And that's why in Buddhism we have been for a long time saying that suffering is introduction to happiness. And it's a paradox, unless we encounter suffering, we don't know what is happiness. Unless we lose somebody, we don't know what is friendship. So there are many paradoxes in our life. So therefore, I am glad that you have organized many programs. And I am glad to join this webinar to speak a little bit about Atisha and give some instructions or teachings related to Atisha's life. For me personally, Atisha is one of the most revered teachers about which I have studied. And my reverence and my study about Athesha is getting more intensive. And the more you study about Athesha's life and thereby the lives of his students like Dromtamba and so forth, the more you will really be impacted by their illustrious life and also the benefit they have done to Tibet and thereby the whole Himalayan region. So I will briefly touch about Athesha's life, which is basically reading I pulled out from various sources. But I don't want to spend too much time. hopefully, because this is something that you can read later on also. You can just nowadays you can use the benefit of internet and download all the stories about Atisha written by many people. I did the same thing. So, Atisha Dibamkara Shirijana in Bengal, Bengali, it's called Atisha Dibamkara Shirijan, but the proper Bengali pronunciation is Otish Dibonkor, something like that. Otish Dibonkor Shirijan or something like that. So he was a Buddhist teacher from the Pala Empire and born in the year 982 in East Bengal, and he was given the name Chandragarbha, the moon essence. And in Tibet he was given the name Athesha, also by the king Changchubu, which means man of peace. If I say a few words about his early life, Athesha is most commonly said to have been born in the year 1980 in Vajrayogini village, Bikrampur, the northeastern region of Bengal, located in modern-day Bangladesh. His homestead in the village is still known to the local people as the Ponditar Bita, which means the homestead of Pandit, a learned man. Athesha's life really mirrors the life of Shakyamuni Buddha, that both are princes and they were not attracted to the material marvels of their kingdom, but attracted more to inner discovery. And just like Buddha, Athesha also left his home and contacted many leading masters of that time and gained all the necessary insights on Sutra, on Tantra, and his commitment to the teaching was so much that at the age of relatively young age, 31, he arranged for a very perilous journey to Sumatra to meet this very reputed master, Subandvipa Dharmakirti. In Tibetan we call it Selingba. And that was done under the guidance of Dharmarakshita. Athesha, remained in that island for 12 years, primarily studying bodhicitta and the mind trainings of the oral origination. And another important point is that Athesha really is the confluence of all the three important lineages in the Mahayana Buddhism. Among the many Buddhist lineages he studied, practiced, and transmitted, the three main lineages were the lineage of the profound action transmitted by Maitreya Asanga and Vasubandhu, and the lineage of the profound view, the view of Shunyata, transmitted by Manjushri, Nagarjuna, Chandakirti, and also the lineage of the profound experience transmitted by Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa. So his teaching is really, really important because, as I said, he had that integrated lineage of all these three important lineages. And Athesha had over 150 teachers. So after his visit to the Swandipa, receiving many profound teachings, especially the teachings on bodhicitta and mind training, he returned back to India and he became the abbot of the very, very venerated Buddhist college of Vikramshila, established by the king Dharmapala of Bengal. And then after that, gradually, at the suggestion of his most important Lama Selingba, who also told him that he should go to the northern land, which means Tibet. And he also got many prophecies from Tara, even the statues in Bodh Gaya. So there were many, many miraculous accounts of Buddhas and Taras and many other deities talking to each other, asking what is the most important teaching. And then every time the answer was the practice of compassion, love, and bodhicitta. So this is how he spent so much time studying with Lama Selingpa to get the complete lineage and transmission of the mind training teaching in general, and especially the teaching on bodhicitta. His visit to Tibet was extremely timely and beneficial because under the notorious rule of the Tibetan king Langtharma, much destruction has happened in the Buddhist teaching. Sutric teachings and tantric teachings were seen as mutually exclusive, and not only destructions have been done by Langtharma, but many fake teachers also came from India with the hope of getting more gold from Tibet. So the pure teaching of Buddha was really, really distorted, and people were in a very confused situation. So it was at that time the Tibetan king in Ngari, which is very close to Ladakh, Lama Yeshe, sent 12 young men in India to study Sanskrit and to invite some reliable Indian Pandits back to clarify the confusion. Imagine in those days, out of the 21 young men that is sent to India, only 2 of them survived the journey. So there are many cases like that, not only this time, but on other occasions also. So this is to show that how much the Tibetan king and others were dedicated and devoted to bring Buddhism and remove the confusion that was there. And according to the findings of many of these Tibetan translators who visited India, all of them said the only good scholar, the most reputed great scholar at that time was Athesha. And they were all of the opinion that it will be only Athesha who will be able to restore the pure teachings to Buddha. And it is because of this, Lama Yeshe, to make a long story short, basically in his attempt to invite Athesha, he went in search of gold and so forth, and finally he was imprisoned by that king of Kallok. And he died in that prison. There was a possibility to rescue him from the prison after offer of a lot of gold, but he said, now I'm already old, so it is better for me to die for Dharma than waste the gold. So he asked his nephew, Changchubu, to use that gold to ensure, to invite Atisha to Tibet. And the parting advice that he gave to his nephew was that he said, my dear nephew, I am pleased that you understand the evils of violence, but now you must forget about me. Instead, use all the gold you have collected to invite to Tibet the great master Athesha. I am now old, and even if I am not killed by this evil king, I would only live for another 10 years. It will be a shame for me if so much gold was given to this evil king just for releasing me from the prison. And look at this statement. I have died countless times in previous lives, but not once have I died for the Dharma. Now I am very happy to do so. Take all the gold to Athesha in India and do all you can to invite Athesha back to Tibet. Elsewhere, I read that this great king, Lama Yeshe, he said, if I'm not able to bring a proper ethics based on the Buddhist teaching, then I will not feel comfortable to die. So such was the dedication. And this is exactly what His Holiness the Dalai Lama is saying these days. He's asking the young Tibetans and Ladakhis and others that you must preserve your language, you must preserve your Dharma, and if young people are not able to, if I do not see young people making this attempt and working wholeheartedly, I will not feel comfortable when I die. So His Holiness is saying the same thing. So therefore, Atisha was with 2 years of very difficult journey. He visited Tibet and remained in Tibet, I think, for 17 years. Some documents say 9 years, some documents say 13 years. It looks like he spent 17 years in Tibet. And the first 3 years was spent in Ngari, from where I come from. So that's why also I have some patriotic feeling and special feeling towards Atisha. And now the interesting that we need to reflect here is when Atisha arrived, the Tibetan king Changchu wrote to meet him and made special requests. And he said, "Compassionate Atisha, there is a great confusion about correct practice in Tibet. If it pleases you, I request you not to teach on the most profound subjects. Rather, please teach about karma, the law of cause and effect. Please teach us those practices that are most easy to follow and that include the essential meaning of all the Buddha's teachings of Sutra and Tantra." Changchu also asked a number of questions. So in the lemma of the Path to Enlightenment, it highlights 7 questions. So this text answered all the questions that had been put by Changchu, and as requested, distilled all the Buddha's 84,000 teachings of Dharma into a clear, simple guide for practice. At the end of 3 years' stay in Ngari, Atisha arranged for a message to be sent to Elder Ratna Karashanti in Nalanda, because they had, when this Tibetan translator Naksulosawa finally managed to invite Atisha to Tibet, a promise was made, a commitment was made that he should be sent back after 2-3 years. Then, for the good fortune of Tibet, there was some fight in Nepal and things like that, and because of which it was not possible for him to go back. So therefore, Atisha sent this message to the elder teacher Ratna Karashanti at Nalanda, requesting permission to stay in Tibet. And he also enclosed a copy of the lemma of the Path to Enlightenment, which he had composed while he was in Ngari. So this great elder teacher Ratna Karashanti submitted the lemma of the path to his highest and most skilled pandits in Nalanda. And when this group of scholars reviewed that text, they were astonished at how Atisha's composition clearly and accurately condensed all the manifold teachings of the Sutra and Tantra into a single short text. The great Panditas recognized that Atisha would never have composed this work had he not traveled to Tibet. Therefore, this great elder teacher, Ratna Karashanti, sent a message back to Atisha consenting to his wish to remain in Tibet. So therefore, Atisha stayed in Tibet for 17 years in total. And so I suppose there are so many things to say about Atisha, but I think I would stop reading more. And one point that is important to mention here, as you had requested me to say a little bit about the legacy of Atisha to the Himalayan regions. As far as his legacy is concerned, Atisha remained an important figure, a very important figure, I would say, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition for several reasons. First, he refined, systematized, and compiled an innovative and thorough approach to bodhicitta, known as the mind training, in such texts as A Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and established the primacy of bodhicitta to the Mahayana tradition in Tibet. In this sense, Atisha not only dictated a scholarly model for bodhicitta, but acted as a living human example. Now, how important this bodhicitta or altruistic attention to enlightenment, we all know, especially in today's troubled times. So second, after King Langtharma's intolerant reign, the monastic Buddhist tradition of Tibet had been nearly wiped out. Atisha's closest disciple, Domtomba. Now, Domtomba, I want to mention few words about Domtomba, especially to all of you, of course, but especially to my flowering Dharma members. And this is something that came in my mind a few times when I read about, the dialogue. There is a long dialogue and discussion between this great Kadamba master, especially between Atisha and Domtomba. Very, very powerful discussion. And during one of this conversation, I came across some lines where Domtomba, why he did not become a monk. He remained as a lay person. That part I really want to share with our students, because many of you may not want to become a monk, which is fine. So therefore, there is a wonderful opportunity for you to emulate the life example set by Domtomba, who intentionally remained as a lay person, but his knowledge, his qualification is probably much, much better than many of the monks. And of course, he is the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara. And the reason that he said he wanted to remain as a lay person is so that he becomes easily accessible to everybody. In those days, of course, there is a little bit of distancing from the monks by the lay people, so they are less approachable. It is not that they are not approachable, but less approachable. So since Domtomba remained as a lay person, everybody felt very comfortable to approach him, seek his advice on various difficult occasions and things like that. So I would highly encourage my friends in the flowering Dharma that please keep this in mind and read more about Domtomba. I think that will really give you another very, very important dimension in your work, in your activity. Okay? So that's what I wanted to mention. So Atisha's closest disciple, Domtomba, is considered the founder of the Kadamba school, which later evolved into the Gelug, one of the four main schools of Tibetan Buddhism. Although monasticism and Lojong teachings, the mind training teachings, were of greatest centrality to Kadamba or Gelug tradition, they were also incorporated into the other schools, the Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya as well. So Atisha is followed by everybody. Finally, Atisha mobilized his influence in India towards the goal of reforming the impurities and redirecting the development of Buddhism there in the native country of Shakyamuni Buddha. For these reasons and more, Atisha remains a central figure in the history and religious study of Buddhism. And as I said, I was, the more and more I read about Atisha, I'm so moved that quite recently I commissioned image of Atisha, which is now housed in the library museum. And so there are many things to say. So that is a short kind of narration about Atisha's life. As I said, the details you can always read. There's not much for me to read it again here. But because out of many of his, for example, he composed many, many beautiful texts, some of which I had the opportunity to read, not only read, but I translated some of these short teachings into English also. But of course, the most important text that he had compiled was The Lamp of the Path to Enlightenment, based on which Tsongkhapa wrote this famous text, Lamrim Chemo. Right? So therefore, I also had this great opportunity not only to receive this teaching on the Lamp of the Path to Enlightenment several times from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but I also had the opportunity to explain this text to others on several occasions. We do not have enough time to explain all this, but I would like to highlight few points from that Lamp of the Path to Enlightenment. So one of the most important points that is shared in that text, and of course, since this is a Lamrim text, the stages of the path text, it talks about, all the relevant parts of the stages of the path to enlightenment, right from finding the teacher to achieving enlightenment, so forth. But then again, like any other, important Buddhist text, the focus is on the twin development of bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. So therefore, for example, in the verse number 10 of the Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment, Athesha says, next, beginning with an attitude of love for all living creatures, consider beings, excluding none, suffering in the three bad rebirths, suffering birth, death, and so forth, which means the most important thing, the precursor quality that you should develop before you think about developing bodhicitta is loving kindness and compassion. And that can be developed by properly seeing the countless sufferings, by which the sentient beings are afflicted. In Buddhism, we talk about so many sufferings, 3 sufferings, 8 sufferings, 6 sufferings, and so forth. But here he speaks about the need to understand at least the 3 sufferings: the suffering, the suffering of change, the conditioned suffering, and so forth. So the more you have a precise understanding of the fragility, externally, especially if you have some material facilities, you look okay. At a superficial, sudden glance, all of us, look okay. We meet each other and say, how are you? And everybody says, I'm okay, But deep down, of course, you are not okay. The fact that you are not okay will be understood if you peel the layers a little bit, On many occasions, I had this opportunity of talking to people, during the first few pleasantry, exchanges, you share the good things, I did this, I did that, and then spend a little bit longer time, then all the problems will come out. I have this problem, I have that problem, I have headache, I have stomach ache, my brother died, my sister died, I'm surrounded by this coronavirus, countless things, unfortunately. So the more you are able to see the vulnerabilities of other sentient being, the fragility of other sentient being, as a human being, you naturally you will feel for these people. Now, to able to develop that strong feeling of solidarity, of love, of compassion to other people, it is important. First, you develop some understanding of the suffering by which you are afflicted. Unless you have some understanding of the suffering by which you are afflicted, it is hypocritical to talk about your understanding the sufferings of other people, you see. If you are somebody who never experienced headache, how can you understand how much that other person is suffering? So that's why these days when we talk about empathy, they say walking in other people's shoes, And when they say walking in other people's shoes, the shoes they give is also high heel shoes, So if you are somebody who never walked in the high heel shoes, then it will be extremely difficult to take. For example, if the people ask me to walk in high heel shoes, I will not be able to walk properly, see. So like that. So the more you think about that suffering upon yourself, the more you will be able to develop that sense of renunciation, that fragility of the nature of life, and thereby you will be able to develop that compassion to other people also. The more you develop that loving kindness, the more you develop that compassion, then the more those sentient beings, become attractive or pleasing to you. Now here, when other sentient beings become attractive and pleasing to you, it is not like the one that you develop when you have attachment to somebody. There's a big difference. When you develop attachment to somebody, then you develop this feeling of closeness and things like that, just by judging the physical shape and color, How beautiful, how handsome that person looks and things like that. No, it has nothing to do with that physical shape and color. Now that kind of loving kindness, we use the term, unconditional loving kindness. There's no condition. Because just like the best example we can give is a mother towards her only child, right? That mother, because of a more purer form of love, she will not see how beautiful, how cute her child is. The mother has a love for whatever child she has, right? So therefore, the more love, the more compassion you have, the more you will stop judging other people. The more you will be able to, smile whenever you meet somebody. Because deep down you have this understanding that this person is not so different from me. This person is, I don't need to exchange a long discussion, dialogue with this person. I know this person is going somewhere in search of peace. As one of the Tibetan teachers, he said, the legless earthworm moves in search of peace. The eyeless ant moves in search of peace. In short, the whole world is running in search of peace. Absolutely true. Why we are running so much today? In search of peace. So therefore, your wish will be how nice if they meet that peace, they meet that happiness, right? And you will play your part as much as possible. Even if it is just exchange of a nice word, you will do that to make the day of that person, So therefore, he says that think about these three types of suffering by which sentient beings are affected. And then you develop this wish, how can I help them? How can I myself get liberated from this suffering? And how can I help other people also get liberated from these sufferings, these manifold sufferings? Now here, one very important point that we need to know is, okay, this reminds me something that I did not read. I should read that part. Yeah, I want to read this part. During Atisha, when he was studying and did received a lot of teaching from various masters, and Atisha finally attained the knowledge of emptiness and become aware of pure human nature. He learned of the freedom of all sentient beings, have a freedom from physical attachment, mental bondage, and so forth. Then during some of these days, on those occasions, one of the Buddhist narrative recounts one story in which Atisha comes across a woman. That woman was alternately crying and laughing. So confused with her behavior, Atisha inquires about her condition, and she responded, one's own mind has been a Buddha from beginningless time. By not knowing this, great complications follow from such a small base of error for hundreds of thousands of sentient beings. Not being able to bear the suffering for so many beings, I cry. And then I laugh because when this small base of error is known, when one knows one's own mind, one is freed. This is like, for me, something that we need to keep in our mind. This is for me very, very encouraging. Sometimes we say, emptiness is difficult, loving kindness difficult, bodhicitta is difficult. Don't just keep on saying difficult. Whether anything is difficult or not is how much time you spend, how much dedication you do to develop these qualities. Right? So what I'm saying is, these countless sufferings that we are encountering, our not being able to get liberated is because we don't spend enough time to see the reality as it is. We run after misconceptions. We are cheating ourselves. So if you pay a little bit of attention to see the truth, to see the reality, to see the shunyata as it is, the solution is there. The countless problems that we are facing today is because we are chasing the objects. We are chasing the sensual objects. And we are never giving any time to, as I said right in the beginning, we are not giving enough time to reflect within and pull the inner resources where lies the solution for all our countless problems. After all, at the end of the day, the solution has to come from oneself and not from outside, which will become more and more clear when we encounter, troubles like this pandemic and so forth. So therefore, with this understanding of the sufferings and so forth, you need to, naturally you will develop this wish to get liberated. And how will you get liberated? You cannot be liberated just by doing some prayers, just by having some faith. These are good. But in Buddhism, the liberation will come only when you see the reality. Now, what is reality? Reality is impermanence. Reality is suffering. Reality is shunyata. Reality is interdependent origination. These things like impermanence, suffering, interdependent origination, shunyata, these are not something invented by the Buddha. They are from time immemorial. They are part of not only human beings, part of the whole system of nature. They are in the rocks. Impermanence is in the rocks. Interdependent origination is in the rocks. So these are like perennial truths. But unfortunately, we don't want to see that perennial truth because we have to chase objects. Because our physical body is made up in such a way that the brain keeps on giving you the signal, do this, do that, and you just keep on running, not giving time and opportunity for the bigger, more powerful energy, the mind, to change the situation, to reflect and think and find the solution. So therefore, liberation, or at least minimization of many of the sufferings, is in your hand. And I have repeatedly recited these words, this quotation from one Tibetan Buddhist teacher who said, there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. There is nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness and your peace is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. Absolutely true. At the end of the day, unless you change your attitude, unless you change your perspective in accordance with the reality and help yourself, even if the Buddha is right in front of you, he will not be able to help you. That's why there is a line in one text called the Guru Puja, where it says that the sentient, although countless Buddhas have come, but because of our own not engaging in the practice, not following them, we are where we are. The situation is getting worse, not better. Right? So not only talking about nirvana and enlightenment, even if you are to solve that problem, the multifaceted problems that we are confronting, we are facing today in the world, unless we change, the world cannot change. Impossible. Right? This reminded me one quotation which says, yesterday I was clever, I thought about changing the world, and today I'm wise, and I thought about changing myself. So it's through your change. Even if one person changes and leads a really proper, constructive, positive way of life, I can watch that many people will follow you and they'll get benefited. Because we are, number one, we are social animals. Number two, we follow each other. You see? In science, they use the term, the mirror brain, We mirror whatever is happening around us. So whatever is happening around us, if it is all negative, it is all depressing, then naturally we will also be pulled into that quagmire of sadness and unhappiness. I mean, imagine, you see, when you are with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he's just one person. You feel that vibration. You feel uplifted. You feel happy. Of course, we are not like His Holiness Dalai Lama, but we don't have to get discouraged. We all have that capacity. You don't have to have the title of a, Lama or somebody special, but just have faith in the goodness of these practices and live that life. Smile, extend your helping hand. I can watch, as I said, you can benefit many, many people. And based on my own experience, I'm nobody, but based on my experience, because of having studied Buddhism a little bit, I'm able to help a number of people. Right? So that is good news. That's really good news. So we can change. So therefore, now in order to actually get liberated, you need to remove all the obstacles on the path to liberation. So the obstacles to path to liberation is all this host of negative emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, and so forth. So there also I don't have time, and I don't want to spend a lot of time. But take just one example like anger, how good it is, how bad it is. You analyze it. You don't have to just follow the teaching or somebody because somebody said it or it is written in some book. But you use your common sense and take time and do a research, do analysis. We all have this experience of having got angry. Remember all those occasions when you are angry. And then find out whether it has been very constructive or destructive. Write it down. Write a book or at least an article. It will be wonderful. It will be like, not only like reminiscences of what you have been in the past, but it will change your life. It will change your life. And honestly speaking, if because of getting repeatedly angry, it has been really, really very constructive, very useful, then keep on getting angry, keep on fighting with others. Some years back, a group of Iranians came to Dharamsala. About 60, 70 Iranian business people came to Dharamsala. So somehow somebody invited me to give a half-day talk. So there was one gentleman who during the question and answer session, he said, I'm a very, very angry person. When, somebody is distressful or somebody, makes me angry, without saying a word, I would just punch his face. So that's my style. So my question is, what do you say? So that was his question. So I said, now you have that experience of punching everybody's face. So based on that experience, if you still think it is the good way, continue punching other people's face. But it's 100% sure that he will definitely learn that it's not good. Right? So through our own experience, we should, identify all these negative emotions and see how beneficial they are, how destructive they are. And then you will be able to develop some conviction why this is bad for your health, for your relationship, and so forth. Okay? So therefore, verse number 21, he says, from this moment onwards, when you having generated bodhicitta, from this moment onwards, until I attain enlightenment, I shall not harbor harmful thoughts, anger, avarice, and envy. Right? Harmful thoughts, see? Even during difficult situations, like during the pandemic, if you develop more unnecessary fear, suspicion with everybody and get angry, it's not going to help you. It will destroy your immune system. And even this, the problem happening in the border from the Chinese side, I can fully understand why people are getting angry and things like that, but from my point of view, that's not the solution. The solution is prepare yourself in such a way so that you don't become vulnerable. Prepare yourself, not only today, but for long-term future. You prepare yourself so that you don't become like a victim to intrusions or bullies and things like that. That is the way. Not just getting angry and saying nasty words. That's not the solution, okay? So that is what is said here in this text, Dilemma of the Path to Enlightenment. And similarly, I shall cultivate pure conduct, give up wrongdoing and desire, and with joy in the vow of discipline, train myself to follow the Buddha. That was, as I already mentioned, whenever you do something good, joy, celebrate. My life is meaningful, right? Otherwise, if you have no sense of appreciation, even for the good things that you have done, then you will not be able to continue this, right? So there should be joy, okay? And then, because you have generated bodhicitta, I shall not be eager to reach enlightenment in the quickest way for myself, but I shall stay behind till the very end for the sake of a single being. See? So the focus is for the rest of the countless sentient beings, not just for yourself. But by thinking like that, don't think that you are going to lose, you are going to suffer. It's again paradox, it's a strange way. The more you think about others, the more you get benefit. Your motivation is not to benefit you, but this result is the more you will benefit. So therefore, there are many Buddhist teachings where they say, helping others is helping yourself. Helping yourself is helping others. You need to help yourself. If you are a Buddhist practitioner, you need to help yourself. You need to take very good care of yourself. Physical health, mental health. That way, you are helping yourself. That way, you are in a much better position to help others. including your parents, relatives, and so forth. So taking care of yourself is taking care of others. Taking care of others is taking care of yourself, because the more you genuinely, sincerely take care of others, the more you have supporters, the more you have friends. Then you will never feel lonely or things like that, you see. And that has to be done not just physically but mentally. So therefore this very popular term we are using today, social distancing, is not new in Buddhism. In Buddhism, so many, if I get time, I'll read few things later on. So many quotations and verses and teachings saying that distance yourself from the pandemic of bad friends. Distance yourself from the epidemic of negative viruses. The text is full of such things. And not only this, I read a few articles where it said some of the most intelligent, business people or educationists, some of the most intelligent people, they make it a point to occasionally retire to solitude, energize themselves, plan and think, then come out to do the new job. You see? So therefore, it's very, very important. And then the text also somewhere says that the modern problem is we don't know how to live with others and also don't know how to live alone. That's the problem. You should be good in one of these. Either you should know how to live alone or you should know how to live with others. The truth of this teaching is become very clear during this pandemic. I was shocked and surprised. Many people don't know how to live alone. They are getting depressed, I mean, if it is shortage of food and other things, I can understand, you see. I can fully understand. But there are many who have no shortage of material facilities, but who are unable to, especially in the so-called developed countries, not in India, but not only in India, but especially in more developed countries. From some of my friends, they told me that many people who are basically well off are feeling frustrated and things like that. So that's the problem. So sooner or later, we need to learn to live alone. We came into this world alone. When we die, we will go alone. So why so much fuss in between? And in fact, there is a teaching in Buddhism which says, even in terms of your relation with the Lama, it says, the blessing of Lama is greater from a distance. Right? If you remain a little bit distant from His Holiness Dalai Lama, then you develop this longing. How nice if I'm able to see him. How nice if I'm able to see him. Because of this genuine wish and longing, you don't really have to go and see His Holiness. He will come in the dream. Because there is a longing. There is a wish. But many of us who stay very close to His Holiness Dalai Lama, we think, okay, we can see him anytime. So there's no longing. So he may not come in our dream. But he will come in the dream of Tibetans in Tibet. I'm not making it up, it is true. So therefore, it is in your mind. Right? So mentally, you should not distance from sentient beings. Always think about them. Develop loving kindness, compassion. But physically, many occasions, unfortunately, it's really like contagious disease, and we are fragile, they are also fragile. Then, the outcome of meeting two people with fragility, you know very well. Right? So therefore, little bit distance and solitude is extremely important. That is what we are learning during this pandemics. And then the text goes on talking about the need to develop concentration and wisdom, understanding emptiness. Okay, so I'm not going to spend so much time about this. And then the text, having explained about the need to combine the method and wisdom, both the compassion and wisdom must be there. And in fact, the wisdom is sometimes, wisdom understanding emptiness is sometimes referred as wisdom with the essence of compassion. Wisdom with the essence of compassion. So in our life also, it is important to have both the feeling of love and compassion for other people, but that feeling of love and compassion for other people must be based on knowledge, reason, not out of sensitivity and superficial stupidity. And if you don't have this understanding, then you will misunderstand compassion and love as feeling of sympathy or pity or something like that. And then you become very touchy and very sensitive. When you see some people suffering, you will cry, and you try to save them or help them unprepared. Then you will also be drawn. You will also be, you're drawn together with that person. Just like two people, the one sinking in the water, and another person who doesn't know how to swim also jumps. The end result is both will get drowned. So you need wisdom, right? So compassion and love does not mean that you should always be with this person, hugging each other, touching each other, always be with these poor people. Not like that. It depends. Sometimes you have to be there. Sometimes a little bit distance is better, you see. So the main thing is the connection should be there. The feeling of connection through love, through compassion. And then wherever and whenever possible, extending actual help. Especially during this kind of pandemics, not just, some people ask me, Geshe, will you become one of the resource person to help these people? I said, okay, but actually what I really felt was, during this time, for many people, they don't need counseling. They need actual help, right? So that's also like, we should not confine our Buddhist understanding only for talking, but wherever possible, we should go out and help people. So how much time we have now?
We're good with time, Geshe-la, now. We can take questions also now.
Okay, we can take questions now.
Yes, Geshe-la, and you can please continue with your talk as well.
Okay. Then I will just say few things here,
Yes, Geshe-la.
which I have printed out, which I thought is very, very interesting, and then question answers. Okay, this is a dialogue between Domtemba and actually a question that three Kadamba masters, including Domtemba, asked Athesha. The question was, of all the teachings of the path, what is the best one? Which is the most supreme one? And then Athesha answers this. He says, in terms of learnedness, in terms of scholarship or learnedness, the supreme learnedness is realization of emptiness. It's not your PhD or things like that, but the supreme learnedness is realization of emptiness. I mean, imagine somebody who really understands the reality from the very depth. It's like fully understanding quantum physics, or even more than that, right? Number one. Then he says, the supreme discipline or best discipline is disciplining one's mind. It is not observing some outside manner, wearing the robes of a monk or brocade cloth, yellow brocade cloth or things like that, but disciplining one's mind. The supreme quality or knowledge is strong altruistic mind. You see, as soon as we talk about qualification knowledge, we think about the PhD degree or things like that, But he says, it's fine, you can have all those educations and qualities, but the supreme quality is a mind wishing to benefit others. The supreme instruction, what is the supreme instruction? We might say the supreme instruction is the instruction from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, things like that. But he says the supreme instruction is always watching your mind. Because your mind is the one that makes or mars your destiny. So always watch your mind, where this naughty mind is planning to go. Control it. And the supreme counterforce, the supreme antidote for anything, especially the negative emotions. The supreme antidote is seeing things as having no inherent independent existence. And what is the supreme conduct? Supreme behavior? The supreme behavior is not living in accordance with the worldly beings. Quite difficult, right? Quite challenging. But again, what he is saying is, even if your realization is as high as a Buddha or somebody, but ordinary behavior should be like ordinary people. So what he is saying is, in terms of your real thinking, it should not be like ordinary people. Right? But in terms of your behavior, you should act normally. Don't pretend that after going 2 months meditation that you become a superhuman being and refuse to talk to ordinary people, saying that, oh, I've been doing this practice for 10 years, I'm different, okay? And keep on talking about how many kala chakras you have received and things like that. No. So therefore, in the mind training text, there is a line which says, Dumba Jula Rangsurja, which means you change your attitude and behave normally. Okay? Then, the supreme attainment. What is the supreme attainment? The supreme attainment is a reduction of your negative emotions. So don't say that only great siddhis will have attainment and none of us will have any attainment. Even if we are able to reduce our anger a little bit, that is attainment. Right? So supreme attainment is reduction of or lessening of afflicted emotions. The supreme accomplishment or sign of accomplishment is if you have reduced your desire. As I mentioned earlier, the one thing that makes us run hither and thither, as I said, the whole world is running, is because of desire. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. Then you have to run. So, reduce your desire. The supreme giving, practice of generosity, he is now talking about all the 6 perfections. The supreme giving is having no attachment. He is not saying that supreme giving is giving gold. Right? The supreme giving is having no attachment. If you have no attachment, you have actually relinquished everything. The supreme morality is calmness of mind, peace of mind, or peaceful mind. The supreme patience is observing humility, observing low profile. Don't become arrogant because you have a PhD or you are a Geshe or people respect you. This reminded me a teaching in the mind training text where there is a story of a father who had 7 brothers and 7 very strong sons. So everybody, the neighbors and everybody was praising him, saying that you are lucky, you have 7 brothers and you have 7 sons, And then he said, this is why I'm feeling so worried. Because the more people say that you are this, you are that, the more people put you on that pedestal, the more you need to be very, very careful. This is how Mao Zedong became crazy. When he got the power, he got completely crazy. And then he did all this destruction, right? So therefore, unless you are liberated, of course, if you are liberated, you will not become arrogant. See? So long as you are in the samsara, whatever, names are names, designations are designations, and there's nothing to be proud about. Because the moment you become proud, there lies your fall. Okay? So, the supreme patience is observing humility. The supreme effort is giving up activities, especially giving up meaningless activities. Because unfinished work is like old man's beard. The more you pick, the more it will grow. It will never come to an end. Many of these meaningless activities will come to an end. The moment you stop doing them, that is the end of the story. Otherwise, it will never come to an end. There is no person lived in the world who said, I have done all my work and now I am dying peacefully. No, it is impossible. And you don't have to do that also. Why should you be trying to do many of these meaningless activities? And especially for Dharma practitioners. Many of us say, yes, I want to do Dharma practice, but I have no time. There is a time, but you are misusing your time. Right? So if you don't misuse your time, use it properly, and stop many of these non-essential activities, you will get a lot of time for many of these virtuous practices, good activities. The supreme concentration is not fabricating your mind. The supreme wisdom is having no grasping to oneself. The supreme spiritual teacher is the one who highlights your fault. The supreme spiritual teacher is not one who is sitting on a high throne, but somebody, it may be a beggar or somebody, who highlights your fault. And through that, if you are able to recognize your fault and change, that is your spiritual teacher. The supreme instruction is hitting at the fault that you have, pinpointing the fault. And the supreme friend is not human friend. The supreme friend is your mindfulness, your introspection, and your heedfulness. So these three, mindfulness, introspection, heedfulness, these are your supreme friends. The supreme instigator here means something that will instigate you to do Dharma practice. That supreme instigator is your enemy, obstruction, sickness, and suffering. This will really make you get up and do things. Normally, when everything is ordinarily okay, then we don't remember Dharma. When somebody dies, then, let us do some puja, right? So therefore, that's why I said the suffering is introduction to happiness. Therefore, the great Kadamba masters, when sufferings come, they laugh at sufferings. They say, what? You said this is suffering? For them, there's no sense of suffering. It's how you see things. And occasionally, I also mentioned suffering could be understood as challenges, as opportunities. It's only through challenges that you grow up, that you gain new experiences. So if you don't run away from suffering, but look at it, it will disappear, or you will learn new things. Right? So that's important. The supreme method is having no fabrication. And the supreme benefit is to help somebody enter the practice of Dharma. It's not just giving money and things like that. And the supreme sign that you have really benefited somebody is not only bringing that person into Dharma, but by coming into Dharma, if that person's mind is changed a little bit, has become better, then it means you really, really helped that person. So there are many things. Why I'm reading this? One, because these lines are so powerful. Second, these are the answers from Atisha. Third, I want you to gradually read all of this. Fortunately, unfortunately, many of these are in Tibetan, but I'm sure many of this can be easily translated into English. And there is a text with many of these discussions. I did a rough translation, but I don't know how long it will take to finalize it. But it will be available, So that's why there are many more things to read, but we don't have to finish everything at one go. As I always say, if you are thirsty, you need to drink water, but not the whole ocean. Right? It is not what you read, but what you learn that makes you learn it. It is not what you eat, but what you digest that makes you healthy. Right? So, let us try to digest what we have already discussed, and I stop here, and let us deal with the question answers. So with these question answers, somebody asking the question, or do I answer all the questions that I already received?
Okay, so Geshe, we have a few of the participants who have joined us as panelists, so they'll be asking you the questions directly.
Okay.
I'll just call out their names and then
Okay.
we'll ask you
Okay.
the
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
Let's begin our question and answer series. So I would request all the panelists to kindly switch on their camera, please, so that we can see you. So I would request everyone present here, your camera. You can keep your mic mute for now, but please switch on your camera. Okay, so I guess so we are ready for the question answer series. So now I would like to request, let's start with Arushi. Arushi, if you're here, can you please begin? Can you please, Arushi, I don't, wait, just hold on a second. Arushi, yeah. Hi, Arushi. So, yes, please go ahead and ask your question to Geshe.
Good afternoon, Geshe. My question is, does ethics play any role in following the path of emptiness?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in Buddhism we talk about the three trainings: morality, concentration, and wisdom. And wisdom. Hello, what happened?
So sorry, sir. Yeah, there was somebody who has just joined.
Okay. So in Buddhism, we talk about the three trainings: morality, concentration, and wisdom. And out of this, now wisdom is wisdom understanding emptiness. So that is your question, path of emptiness. So out of these three trainings, morality is said to be the foundation. So therefore, I'm answering your question by saying morality or ethics is the foundation. So therefore, it is really very, very important for the path of emptiness. Without morality, you can't even develop the path of emptiness. Why? Because, when we talk about morality, the Sanskrit word for morality is shil.
Yes.
Shil is a Sanskrit word which comes from shitalta, which means coolness. Which basically means, morality basically means having lived a life where there is no hatred, no anger, no jealousy, so your mind is completely calm and tranquil. It's only when your mind is completely calm and tranquil, then you can concentrate, then you can develop wisdom, understanding emptiness. How can you realize emptiness or concentrate when you are angry or jealous and things like that? So therefore, ethics is not only important but inevitable for developing higher paths. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So for next question, I would like to Tashiga to kindly switch on your mic and put on the next question. Tashiga-san.
Julie, good morning, Geshe. Wait for a second, please. Firstly, I would like to thank Florin Dharma and its members, and also to you, Geshe, for creating such an opportunity and giving such a lessons and new teachings in this unfortunate period of pandemic. Unfortunate. My question to you, Geshe, is, as we know that in our daily life we do lots of mistakes and do wrong things, but at some point of time we seek for forgiveness. So when we seek for forgiveness, it's easy to forgive. They say, okay, you are forgiven, and we tend to think that we are forgiven, but deep down inside we are not able to think like that we are forgiven. So how do we forgive ourselves? Thank you, Geshe.
Yeah, so forgiving is not saying that I have forgiven you, not just saying that. Mentally you have to forgive. Right? Mentally. So mentally means now this person is with sincerity asking for forgiveness, And if I forgive that person, we'll also become friend. It's also good for me. It is also good for others. So with this understanding that you not only verbally forgive, but mentally you should forgive. And it's not that forgiving is not only good for that person, but it's actually much better, much good for you, much better for you. Because if you don't forgive, it means you will maintain some kind of resentment, uneasiness in your mind, which will be a burden that you will carry for a long, long, long time. You will talk about it, oh, this person is not good, he did this to me, and you will. So that's why the destructive thing with all these negative emotions is when you develop these destructive negative emotions, how much it is going to harm others is questionable. But without any doubt, without any question, you will become the first casualty. So therefore, for your own well-being, happiness, you should just forgive it. And it is possible. Just like, see that whatever has happened with that person, see it like a nightmare, a dream. Now you are walking up, so it's okay, now forgive. You see? So that's possible. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay.
Okay, next I would like to request Monica Kumari to kindly switch on your mic and put the next question.
Hello. Yeah, my question is I'm very passionate about lots of things, but I do not have stability to anyone. Like I start one passion and then drop it after a while. I'm not stable kind of person. So I want to know how should I get motivated all the time?
It's not only you, we all have the monkey mind, So we want to jump from one branch to another branch. We all have that. It's only that, in fact, it's good that you are recognizing this. Not many people recognize that. We all do the same thing, but we don't even recognize it. So the recognition is a wonderful step, the first step. So having recognized that, there is no harm in doing different things. But what is important is that at least there should be some priority. Some of these are really, really important, I must do. Others, occasionally, I fancy to do, but I should not, get completely carried away by those small, minor kind of, distractions, as I already mentioned. Otherwise, in life, you are not going to achieve anything. If you touch here a little bit, touch there a little bit, then at the end of the day, this is based on my own experience. For example, if you are writing something, let us say, 1 page, letter or something. Now, just write 2 lines, and if you walk away, you will never be able to finish that one paper. And the drawback with that is you don't get that sense of satisfaction. So if you sit down and focus on that a little bit and make sure that you are able to complete 1 page, that will energize you. Yes, I'm able to do that. I'm able to sit. I wrote 1 page. If I'm able to write 1 page, why not 2 pages? Why not 3 pages? Why not an article? Why not a book? You see? So that way you will be able to really, get that that benefit. You are able to see that. You are proud of that achievement, and that will make you continue with that important thing. But if you scratch the surface a little bit and then don't do anything, I also do that, you see. So then at the end of the day, you don't see any achievement, you see. So therefore, doing a little bit here and there is not a big problem, but you should have few things which is really the important thing in your life. It's like, traveling. When you travel, it is important to travel through the national highway. That is the path. But occasionally you stop for bathroom or for lunch or dinner and go by the sideways. It's okay. But do not lose the national highway. Okay?
Okay, so I should be patient, right?
Exactly. And patience comes when you see the achievement after having spent some time for doing some things. Then you will see the result, and that will energize you to do more and concentrate on that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, I would like to request Dr. Vadina Gala to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question. Dr. Vadina Gala, can you please switch on your mic and put forward the question?
Yes, thank you for giving me this chance. And I'm so happy to see that my question appearing in your list. And also my respect for most venerable sir. I'm from Sri Lanka. Also my question is, what was the concept of wisdom in the Tibetan culture prior to its contact with the Indian tradition? So it means we know that everywhere there are wisdom traditions, and these great masters maybe they fusion those traditions. So I like to listen to you. What was the originally that Tibetan tradition inherited and contributed to Indian tradition when they came to contact?
To be honest, I don't have an answer for this, but through hopefully correct assumption, I can make a statement by saying that even before Buddhism came anywhere in the world, for example, in the Christian tradition, people have wisdom. In the Islam tradition, people have wisdom. So even before the coming of Buddhism, we have the native born tradition. Even before the born tradition, Tibetan people have their brain. so because of their brain, this capacity to analyze and reason out certain things, not necessarily emptiness, but reason out things. So that kind of wisdom, I'm sure, is there even before Buddhism came. But what probably will not be there is wisdom understanding emptiness, which is a very profound teaching, which when you are not exposed, you cannot have that wisdom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would request Tsewang Lamula to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question.
Tahitele Krishna
Tahitele.
and you each and every member of Flowering Dharma. So Geshe, my question is how to cope up with the practice and daily life work, because much time is consumed in daily works, and which also hinder our practice by creating disturbing in one's own mind. So my question is, Geshe, how to keep the balance between the work and one's own practice?
This was answered by His Holiness Dalai Lama many, many years back. Of course, he answered many times. But during one occasion when he was giving teaching to a group of people from France, I was attending the teaching. So there was a French lady who got up and said, His Holiness, in the West we are all so busy, so how can we do the Dharma practice? Then His Holiness said, it is up to you whether you want to do Dharma practice or not. Which was a little bit blunt, I felt, but His Holiness has a reason. Then he said, it's up to you whether you want to do Dharma practice or not. If you want to do Dharma practice, you will always find time, just like eating your lunch or dinner. People will heartily say that there's no time for dinner or lunch. In the West, it is a common sight that even if they don't have time to sit 1 hour for lunch or dinner, at least they will have that packed lunch or dinner while moving in the car, they eat, things like that. So as I said already, it's a question of prioritizing, it is a question of seeing what is more important in our life. So don't just run after small things. Sometimes the funny thing is, people say, I have no time, but they have time for so many things. I also remember this very clearly when this program of teaching science in the monasteries was introduced, in the Tibetan monastery, it was introduced. And then many, almost like give the kind of sign that they are so busy with their traditional Buddhist studies, say they don't have time for science and things like that. So the little bit of expression of reluctance or things like was, manifesting. So during one of the visit to the monasteries by His Holiness Dalai Lama, he touched on this subject and he said, now I leave it to you whether you want to study or not. And he said, you have time for looking at the mobile for hours on end. And then you say you have no time for studying science. So I leave it to you whether you want to study or not. So therefore we'll always find time. But unfortunately, as I said, that we don't want to do the more serious, important things. We want to do small things, I once attended a workshop to improve the work proficiency when I was working in His Holiness office. So they said, you make a long list what you want to do in a day or in a month, then do the most important thing first. Because if you are able to do that, then some of the things which is not important, even if you are unable to do, there's no problem. But if you miss doing the important things, you will be in problem. Right? So think something like that. Okay?
Thank you.
Loss.
Okay, next I would like to request Mr. Vijay Meena to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is it possible to feel compassion for enemy? If yes, then how?
Yes, of course. Because when we develop compassion, we don't develop compassion by saying whether this is my enemy, friend, or things like that. Whether somebody is close to you or not. We develop compassion with the knowledge that whoever this person is, enemy, friend, whoever, they are suffering. It's only ignorance that they think they are okay, but they are suffering. Right? So with this understanding, we develop compassion. So that was partly the point that I was making when dealing with the incursion, by China. That's the point I was making, you see. So deep down you feel sorry, because it's total ignorance, thinking that you can give money to people and cheat them and bully them, It's ignorance, total ignorance, because the more you do that, the more you will lose your friends, as it's now becoming clear and clear. It's stupid. It's only they have the power, so they think they become drunk by that power and doing all these things. Right? So there are many, mad activities that we are doing in the world. For example, the destruction of environment, you see. It's out of madness. That for temporary benefit, we don't care about the destruction of the environment. It's total ignorance. And very soon a time will come that we have done so much damage to the environment that it will not be possible for us to recover it. Think about this, imagine this. It's all because of short-term goal, narrow-mindedness, and ignorance we are doing this, number one. Number two, even if you are able to change or not change that enemy, but if you feel that develop this positive motivation, you are the first beneficiary. Instead, if you develop anger and jealousy, that I'm not able to develop this compassion, these people, they are destroying us and things like that, you get angry. You become the first victim because of your anger. You are immediately suffering, but that enemy may not even know that you are angry or not. But that again does not mean that you let other people exploit you, cheat you. Be compassionate and strong. And in fact, the more you are compassionate, the more you practice non-violence in the true sense of the term, then the more you are strong. Using guns, machine guns, is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of weakness. It's only when people are weak, then they become violent, because they have no reasons to, defend themselves. Right? So therefore we need to, especially in India, we have this wonderful culture of practice of non-violence introduced by Mahatma Gandhi and Buddha and so forth. It's extremely important for us to nurture this great quality of non-violence and compassion. And that, as I said, that does not mean that you let others exploit you, bully you. You defend yourself. But the problem is many times we just say all the bad things, negatives to the enemy, but those things that you should be doing, we are not doing. For example, we are now talking about blocking how many? Nearly 100 apps, right? Right?
Yes.
The question is, first of all, Why is it so that until now you are so dependent on these apes and you are not able to come up with yourself for so many years? That's your weakness. So we should really learn to do those things so that we are able to become really independent in the true sense of the term, that we don't have to suffer because of others, manipulations and things like that. But it's a major human problem. We don't do things that we can do, but simply keep on complaining, That will not solve the problem. Just simply saying we are great, we are powerful, will not make you powerful, you see. You will become powerful by doing. And that doing will not come in one day, you see. Right? So that's my feeling.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to request Jordan La to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question.
Chastili Geshe-la. Geshe-la, the Dharma in general and dependent origination and impermanence in particular teaches us to be compassionate. But then there are situations and circumstances where staying calm and compassionate is not possible. So Geshe-la, my question to you is, what should we be doing when such a situation arises?
Number one, nobody become Buddha in one day. Right? So nobody will be able to do every practice every day. So you need to be, practical. But that does not mean to say you cannot become better, you cannot change. The more you practice, the more you understand, the more you will be able to practice in all situations. It's only a question of training. You need to constantly train. Right? So if you train, you practice and see the benefit of such practice, then gradually you will be so, used with those practices that you will be able to do that in all situations. For example, let me cite this teaching from Chandideva's Bodhicharya Avatara. It is said that when you continuously train in compassion and things like that, then gradually, yeah, what happened? Hello?
Yes, sorry, Geshe-la, somebody's mic was on, so I've asked them to mute it.
Yeah, okay.
Now we are good.
Okay. So let me give you this example from Chandideva's Bodhicharya Avatara, where it says that if it's all question of getting habituated, and if you get habituated, you will be able to do. The example is, in the beginning, you as an ordinary practitioner, you are not asked to sacrifice your life for others, because that is impossible, generally speaking, right? But gradually when you practice, you will see your body exactly like another piece of vegetable. When you see somebody chopping the vegetable, you don't feel hurt, right? So similarly, your consideration to your body, you will have no grasping, no clinging. And of course, that is not easy. It will take a long time to get used to that. Our grasping is so strong. But once you are without that grasping, then you have no problem sacrificing your body, just like giving a piece of vegetable. And therefore, in the case of the Buddha, it is said that if Buddha is, surrounded by two people, on one of his side, there is his enemy who cuts the flesh of the body of the Buddha piece by piece by a sharp knife, saying all the nasty things against Buddha. Then on the other side, there is Buddha's, follower who, while praising the Buddha, anoints his body with sandal oil and things like that. Instead, the Buddha will see no difference between these two people. So it's attitude. It takes a lot of training. Okay?
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Yeah.
Now I would like to request Komal to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question.
Thank you so much for your sessions, and thank you to Flowering Dharma who gave us this opportunity to hear your sessions and they have been really useful for me. Today my question is that how to overcome emotion of self-pity and avoid the instances of emotional abuse. Like we encounter with people or situations where our emotions are being suppressed many times and not able to put up the things the right way maybe. Or maybe is not able to understand the way we are trying to put up the things.
Yeah.
That's what I would like.
Okay, so self-pity is basically a kind of self-indulgent dwelling on one's own sorrows and misfortunes, right? And if you develop that kind of self-pity and feel sorry for yourself, it can be downright self-destructive. It makes overcoming adversity or misfortunes very difficult, if not impossible. And it keeps you stuck. So therefore, the first thing that is important for you is to become mentally strong and refuse to allow self-pity to sabotage your mind, right? You should face those feelings, recognize the warning signs and the downward spiral and things like that. So become strong and do something that is really energizing you, strengthening you. That's important. So don't just think that you are the victim. Remove that victim mentality. Okay, that's very important. Then with your the second, what was the second question? The second question was the emotional abuse, right?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, emotional abuse. So if you are, for example, experiencing that kind of emotional abuse, I think it is important to seek help from other people. Okay? There are a number of services you can also contact, or you might need somebody to talk to and check out domestic violence. If there's a need to get legal assistance or financial assistance, medical assistance, it's important to do that. Because that kind of emotional abuse will lead to many other abuses, financial abuses, sex abuses, and many things like that. So right from the beginning, you need to be a little bit careful not to get entrapped into many other abuses because of the emotional abuses. So again, here it is important to really, like, whether it is feeling of self, pity or the emotional abuse, it's important to strengthen yourself. But I understand that in some situations you are so much dependent on certain particular person that it may not be that easy for you to come out. But try your best. If you are in a situation where you constantly suffer from emotional abuse, then if there is a possibility to get out of that environment, try to get out of it, right? If it is not that easy to get out, at least take the best and remain strong. Remain strong doesn't mean fighting constantly, but maintain your mental and physical health, and thereby also strength, so that other people will notice that she is not going to yield easily like that. So be a warrior. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, I would like to request Rituraj to kindly switch on your mic and put forward your question.
Good afternoon, Geshe, and thank you to everyone, and thank Flowering Dharma to give me opportunity to ask the question. Actually, my question is, can we imbibe Buddha's teaching in society? And means in current society, current situations, how can we imbibe his teachings?
I think the most important thing is to use the common sense and take the perennial messages from the Buddha's teaching. And in fact, yesterday I was having a similar webinar, and there somebody asked me the question that whether the rest of the world can emulate the Bhutan's example of the gross national happiness. And since that concept of gross national happiness is based on the Buddhist concept, is it possible to take that concept and things like that? So there also I said that it is very much possible, because if you don't see it as a Buddhist thing, but if you just take the secular message, which is applicable to everybody, like for example, many of these teachings like the compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom, understanding the reality, interdependent origination, if you don't relate it directly to the philosophical concept of emptiness, but rather the concept of interdependent origination, things like that, it's very much applicable. It's very much applicable. And especially development of loving kindness, compassion is very much, needed commodity in today's society. This commodities like compassion, loving kindness, and so forth, these are in short supply today, right? So supply that. What we need in India or in the rest of the world is really abundant supply of loving kindness, compassion, not so much of this, merchandise, right? So therefore, this core Buddhist teachings are not necessarily for the monks who go high up in the mountain and meditate. It's for, and in fact, if you look at how Buddha gave the teaching, he just with group of monks, he traveled all the time, visiting village after village and giving teachings. So his teachings are more relevant to ordinary people than just the mendicants or monks and seers. And in fact, I met one Tibetan friend. He said that he was a scholar. He had studied all these philosophical treatises by Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and so forth, which has a lot of opponents' view and the refutation and so many complex philosophical arguments. Then he said that it is easier to understand Buddha's teaching when we read the sutra, the teaching of the Buddha himself, than the commentaries, because he was a man of the ordinary people, you see. So it's very, very applicable in our society. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we just have 3 more questions left. So I would like to request Padma Yudulla to kindly switch on your camera and your and your mic, and please ask your question.
My question is, how can you describe great compassion over compassion?
Compassion, sometimes we use the term compassion, immeasurable compassion, great compassion, and things like that. So if you generally think about removing the sufferings of some people, it's compassion, but not necessarily great compassion. Great compassion is a term which is used when you develop compassion, referring to all suffering sentient beings, not just human beings, birds, animals, and to all living sentient beings. How nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of all sentient beings. If you develop such a compassion, that is called great compassion, because your object is great, it is infinite, right? But you develop feeling of compassion to some people, just for the Ladakhis. Are you from Ladakh?
Yes.
Okay, anyway. If you develop compassion just for Ladakh, it's good, but not great compassion. Okay, so it depends on the object, how much you include.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay.
Next, I would like to request Sering Dolmala to kindly switch on your mic and your camera, and please ask your question to Geshe-la. Sering Dolmala.
Hello. Yes. Can you please unmute? Hello. It's already on unmute.
Yeah.
Hello. Am I on? Now we can hear you, Singramala. Hello. So actually, I just
had a very practical question actually. This is not regarding the assignment and everything. Everything is like.
I think we have lost her. I think her connection is quite unstable. So I think Sri Ramala, if you don't mind, can I will put forward your question to Geshe-la. So the question that Sri Ramala sent to us was, I would like to ask why the Buddhism all over the world is following different things. As in, Buddhists all over the world is considered vegan and a casteless society, but practically it's not true. So how can we teach the coming generation about the faith and beliefs of Buddhism? How should we further see the Buddhism developing in our society? What will be the best way to reach the rural and illiterate people residing in old beliefs?
There are two things. One, as far as the core teachings of the Buddha, all the different, Buddhist schools of thought, the Hinayana school or Mahayana school or whatever you call it, they basically follow the basic core Buddhist teachings everywhere. So there is not much difference. But it may be like with rituals and with certain usage of certain terminologies, there may be some differences, but these are minor differences. So it is not correct to say that Buddhism all over the world is following differently, right? But again, your question may have an element of truth, because sometimes some people might start a center or a monastery without the needed qualification. So they might make up their own teaching in the name of the Buddha. Unfortunately, this can happen anywhere. So you might have come across such things, so which is not actually the true teaching of the Buddha. And then also you're mentioning that Buddhists all over the world is considered vegan, which is a wrong concept. Majority of the people forget about becoming a vegan, but they don't even see all Buddhists as vegetarian. They expect that Buddhists should be vegetarian because it talks about compassion all the time. So again, that is not absolutely true. But what is important thing is, again, the point that we need to make very clear here is, what is taught in Buddhism and how much people are able to practice is a different thing. It's not only a problem with the Buddhism, but also in all the religious traditions. We may say, I'm a Christian, but that does not mean that you're able to practice every teaching, Christian teaching faithfully. Even monks, they may not be able to practice everything, you see. So don't be surprised if people are not practicing everything. Let us expect that they improve and able to practice everything. Okay, so then regarding your question about developing Buddhism in society, and especially, making Buddhism reach to the rural and illiterate people, it depends on the situation. For example, in the very, very, poor areas, it is not so much teaching. Teaching will help, but you need to help them remove their poverty. There is a teaching in Buddhism which is called the 4 ways of attracting followers. Out of the 4 ways of attracting or gathering followers, the first one is not teaching, but the first one is giving what is needed. So in poor, illiterate, areas, villages, first thing is you really need to help them physically, materially, whatever is possible. Establish schools, open libraries, hospitals, do that. And so here I think the Buddhists need to learn a lot from the Christian tradition. Because sometimes we do find that Buddhism has a rich philosophy, we have so many teachers talking about, but on the ground, not much is happening. So let us start schools, hospitals. Then only when you are really not talking, just only really helping, then they will be interested to listen. I heard about this story about somebody who was suffering from leprosy. right? Somebody is suffering from leprosy, and she was hospitalized in a Christian, hospital and given all the needed medical facilities. So that lady was, of course, very illiterate, villager. But she had no idea what is Christianity and things like that. But because she was so much looked after, that when somebody asked what religion you follow, she is said to have said that I don't know which religion this one is, but the one who is helping me, I will follow that religion. So it's not just talking, you need to help, you see. So religion is not just talking, it is helping. So we need to help, and then thereby gradually to teach the good ways of life. Because at the end of the day, the real solution will come by changing the mental attitude, how people should behave, how should people live, not just, alleviating the material poverty. So first, giving what is necessary, then teaching, then asking them to follow certain ways of life. Then fourth, you yourself who is giving the teaching has to be the role model, practicing it. Okay? All right?
So for today's last question, I would like to request Nimala to kindly switch on your mic and forward your question.
Thank you, Flooring Dharma and Geshe-la. And Geshe-la, my question is, whenever His Holiness interacted with the Indian governors, scholars, and students, and His Holiness constantly asking Indians to pay more attention on India's ancient knowledge, especially Nalanda thought.
Exactly.
So the question is, what is the legacy of His Holiness Dalai Lama to the Indian people and his country?
Now, this is a heavily loaded question. I don't know whether I am able to answer this or not. But as far as I know, and having had the privilege of working with him for 16 years as his translator, in all these Himalayan regions, in the beginning, there was really not much proper practice of Buddhism, which is part of Indian culture, Indian heritage. So because His Holiness traveled to all these Himalayan regions, and in those days, luckily he was relatively young, and we traveled together like the whole day, riding by cars and stopping at every villages and giving teaching and so forth. And because of this, not only he was able to revive the Buddhist tradition in all these areas, which is very important strategically also, all these border areas, to energize and to make them feel the Indian culture, the sameness of the Indian people and things like that. He was able to do that. And because of this, not only people were able to revive their Buddhist knowledge, Buddhist tradition, but many of them also got a sense now it is important to improve the sanitation, improve the school, start schools. So I can't count, but I know many new schools have started after visit of His Holiness Dalai Lama, because he is also, while teaching, he has also encouraged those places to start school, to open hospitals. He personally made donations in all these places and things like that. So there is one thing. Then on another bigger level, His Holiness, I don't know how many conferences he has attended, religious conferences, religious how many. One very big, he himself, sponsored and initiated, and all the major religious traditions, leaders of major religious traditions came. So all this had given such a big impact to the mind of the people. And then His Holiness always saying that I am son of India, you see. That creates that feeling of sameness, and that makes people to really listen to His Holiness, advices. And now, like the sea learning, the secular ethics teaching, which is already taken up in many Indian schools, because that was the call of the time. There was so much need in improving the ethics, the moral values. So when His Holiness came, not only spoke about it, but came with the proper curriculum and things like that, millions of people benefited from it, and many more are following it. Then, as you also mentioned, the revival of ancient, Indian tradition, not just Nalanda, but ancient Indian tradition. So there are a group of people working on it. Books are already publishing. So that will also make a huge impact. But for me, one of the most important legacy is not just his teaching and talking, but the role model that he had lived in India. Now, there's hardly any Indian who would not respect His Holiness as an embodiment of compassion and highly admired it. And it is because of this, people, when they see His Holiness as a role model, naturally young people happily follow their role model. Okay?
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Thank you for giving us the time. I am so sorry to all the other attendees. We have been getting lots of questions in the chat and in the Q&A section, but I'm sorry we will not be able to take it because we've already extended the time. We were supposed to be till 1 o'clock and we've already passed 2 o'clock now, and I'm sure even Geshe-la is tired right now. He's been with us for the past, I think, three hours now. So anyways, this is not the end. We will have similar programs even in the future. I would like to ask Geshe-la to kindly keep on supporting us. Your support means a lot. And like you just said, like how His Holiness has been an inspiration for Indians, for Flowering Dharma, he has been like a guiding light. We have our aims and objectives are based on his visions, and we are so thankful wherever we are today is, I think, because of teachers and role model like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Geshe Lhakdor, Geshe Doje Damdullah, and all our other teachers. And once again, on behalf of my entire team, I would like to thank all the attendees and also the participant of the online certificate course. You will each receive a certificate, a digital certificate via email. And thank you so much, Geshe-la. So before we end, we could not show you the small video of Flowering Dharma. So now I would like to request Thapala to kindly end our today's session with the small video of Flowering Dharma so that each one of you can know a little bit more about us. And I would like to request each and every one of you to keep on supporting us, be a part of our programs, and you can reach out to us anytime you want. You have our email ID, our phone number, and you can always stay connected with us. And if you ever have, after this whole COVID situation is over, if you ever happen to visit Ladakh in Leh, I would like to welcome you all to our center. This is our center. It's called Raku House. It's a 100-year-old house. So we've renovated it. We work from here. So every one of you who are connecting with us through Zoom or Facebook, I would like to thank you all for giving us the time and being with us for the past 3 hours now. And Kapala, kindly take over.
Tashizile Geshe-la, thank you so much. I'm really sorry for everyone, to everyone, because of the technical glitches in the beginning. I couldn't be there, but yeah, I have the video here, so let me just, play it. I hope it's visible. People can see it.
No, Thapa.
Not visible?
Not visible now.
Okay.
Okay, now coming.
Okay. So now is it visible? Is it visible now? Maybe just
Video is not visible. It just says JS Thapa has started screen sharing.
Okay, let me just.
Yeah, please take your time.
Is it visible now? Could you just confirm?
No. When it's visible, I will let you know.
Lhkdor, can you please confirm if it's visible? If not, then I don't think I'll be able to
I think there's some technical difficulty, so it's okay. Just let it be. Maybe it's not in our cards, so it's okay. So let's end it here. Once again, thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
And
bye-bye.
we are so grateful to you. And we hope that we'll be able to visit you soon.
Yes.
We pray that the situation gets over and everything
Yes.
is calm, and then we will visit you in Dharamshala and we'll have you in Arunachal and in Ladakh.
Yes, sure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.